Hello and welcome to a Forgotten Games special. Today we'll show you the first chapter of a series of episodes to cover every single commander in the game. Hopefully we aim to release a chapter every 2 days, and if several new commanders come out we will just add an extra chapter onto the end of this to keep you up to date. Each chapter also has a director's cut that accompanies it, where you can listen to our reasoning and just our general despair as we try and figure out what the hell we're going to do with each one of them. And hopefully by the time we're finished they won't have added some new ones. So just for example, we're going to take every commander, as you can see, I'm here, and we're going to give them a score out of 5 for each one of these categories. Bear in mind it is possible for a commander to get 0 in a category because some of them are just completely useless. What are those categories, Reaper?
Yes, the first category is the Weirwood, and the Weirwood is already a little bit extended due to the arrival of our monthly event, the Weirwood Memories, so it became a lot more important than it used to be. The second one are the training grounds, and in the training grounds not much have changed, and usually there was a very certain set of commanders that was used there, but lately there have been some changes that make new commanders really viable in the training grounds as well. The third one is Rebel Leaders, and Rebel Leaders are usually about pure damage, but there are some effects that can be used to amp up the damage a lot. And that also counts for the fourth one, where commanders that usually are good in Rebel Leaders also will most likely score decently on damage output.
The reason why we're expanding the Rebel Leaders category into the different subcategories is because Rebel Leaders is probably one of the most important things you're going to use your commanders for.
And also support and crowd control can play a big part in both Rebel Leaders Training Grounds and Weirwood.
So support and crowd control are extensions of the early categories but highlight exactly what they specialize in. More specialties mean more points.
The skills category is a little bit special because some commanders score really well against a certain effect or another commander. For example, a Varys can use his skill to counter Sansa or a Kravras from healing or from stunning, while otherwise might not be a very useful commander.
We added that category to give some specialist points to those people you want to pull out in a specific circumstance. Next up, we have the abilities.
Yes, and that is combat advancement, and it's of course anything that has to do with PvP combat. Boosting your attack, boosting your defense or health. If commanders score very well in that, they can gain 5 points in that category. And that also counts for city advancement, of course, because some commanders will give boosts to your city.
And the final category is friendship. Now, while friendship can give some very impressive boosts and is different overall, it's a very long-term and expensive thing to get to max, so therefore we're not giving the commanders too many points just for that. And altogether, that will give us a score out of 50 to rank our commanders from best to worst. Now, bear in mind this isn't a hard ranking. Some commanders can do better or worse in certain scenarios, but it gives us something to measure against, because otherwise it's just on the art, and then we know Tyrion is going to win.
Yes, let's get started with our first commander, and that's of course the beautiful Sheila.
One of the first commanders you unlock, so we might as well start here.
And let's go to her Weirwood capabilities. She has a beautiful snipe, and she has a very high damage. That gives you a lot of opportunities in the Weirwood. However, you need to be able to target the enemies, and you have to position her perfectly for it to be useful. That's why we do give a solid 3 for the Weirwood. However, in the training grounds you do not have that luxury. You cannot target specific opponents you want to eliminate, so therefore it only gets 2 points. But for Rebel Leaders it doesn't really matter, because Rebel Leaders often have one opponent, so her skills will be automatically targeted to that opponent. Plus her very high damage will help you very well, especially on early levels when you don't have much other commanders that have a high damage against clearing Rebel Leaders. That's why we give it 3 points.
The reason behind this is mainly behind her damage output. Her damage output is one of the highest in the base game, especially for free-to-play players, so she gets a solid 4 points there. She has no support skills, however, earning a big fat 0. Finally, her attack comes with a built-in stun. However, it's very short, is not reliable, and is difficult to pull off when you need it, so therefore she only gets 1 point. Her skills are extremely specialized, however, in their aspect they are second to none. An amazing snipe, an amazing attack, however, not useful in other situations, therefore she gains 2 points.
When it comes to combat advancements, she has bowman attack and fortifications attack. Both are not in a very good place at the moment. Therefore, she only gets 1 point in combat advancement. When it comes to city advancement, technically she gives production, namely grain production, but you can't build many farms. Usually you build one farm and that's all you have to do. So there's never gonna be grain production. As soon as you have an army, they're gonna eat everything anyway. However, she could potentially be useful for grain hyper farms, and therefore she gets 1 point in city advancement.
When we look at friendship, her 2 finance quality and 4 combat rate means she's rather impressive, especially for a free-to-play player where combat rate is harder to get to. We would love to give her 3 points just because of this. However, her reliance on desserts, one of the most sought-after items, and the fact that she only has 6 stars total, gives her 2. All in all, we give Sheila 19 points.
And then is Chris, a commander you unlock very early, and you will use him a lot of times early on. In the Weirwood, he is essential for your early game. His stun is so important as you can target it, so you can knock out the commanders of the enemy that are actually the biggest threat. He also brings a ton of defense for himself. Other than that, he doesn't really give much support to other characters and is really on his own. For that we give him 3 points in the Weirwood. Since his stun is his biggest power, his big defense does help a little bit in the training ground, but other than that, there's not much to rely on. For that reason we give him 2 points in the training ground. Being so focused on defense, his damage is definitely lacking. Early on you can use him on rebel leaders, but after that you're gonna quickly replace him. For that reason we give him 1 point in rebel leaders.
And this is explained due to his very low damage output. He's a tank without any extra special abilities, so only gets 1 point here. He also has no supporting skills, earning him 0 in this category. As for crowd control, his stun is one of the best in the game, clocking in at 3 seconds, and with the ability to stun 4 people if you position it well. It's definitely worth the 3 points. Overall, his skills are a little bit of a disappointment. Some of them are extremely limited, only working for 5 out of every 15 seconds. Some of them are rather low, increasing defense a lot less than other abilities. So he gets 1 point here.
Since infantry is frontline, Chris definitely redeems himself in his combat advancement, bringing infantry attack and health, the 2 most important stats. This will earn him an easy 3 points in combat advancement. Because you get Chris so early on, his construction speed brings a lot of benefit to your game. For that reason he gets 2 points in city advancement. His redemption comes to a shocking halt when you look at his friendship. He uses weapons which you really need for other commanders like Rob and Arya. Bringing 3 aptitude and 2 commands, you will never level him, and we cannot give him any points for friendship.
Overall, your first ever commander only clocks in at 16.
And then we have Sag. And Sag is a massive giant, and he represents that in his massive defense and health, which is almost unmatched in the entire game. However, when we look at Weirwood, Sag is not the best commander to have. Yes, he has a stun, but it is a very small range. Also, his synergy with other commanders is not that great. With that comes, his damage output is rather low. For that, the Weirwood gets 2 points. However, when we look at the training ground, something really important comes into play. His massive defense and health means he does not rely on other commanders to heal him or to bring crowd control to support him. He can hold his ground on his own for a very long time, and there's almost no other commander who can do it like him. And therefore your backline, where most of the damage will be, has much more time to shoot at the enemies. For that reason we give him 4 points. As mentioned before, his damage is really low, and when it comes to rebel leaders there's just one opponent and that needs to be burned down as soon as possible. Therefore he gets 0 points for rebel leaders.
With one of the lowest damage outputs in the game, it's pretty clear that he gets 0 points in this category. The same can be said of support. With no skills that help allies, and very limited skills himself, we have to give him a 0 here as well. Crowd control is where he has a little bit of an edge. With the advantage of having 2 different stuns, which can be timed to hit differently, he can control a single target, making it focus on him and nothing else. For that reason, we give him 2 points in crowd control. Seg's skills in total are purely focused on defense. They are focused on holding someone together and taking damage while protecting everyone behind him. This means he's extremely powerful, but extremely limited. He only gets 2 points in skills.
When it comes to combat advancement, Seg gives total defense and total attack both 15%. At the release of this video, he is currently the best commander by far because he has Awakening, which other commanders are still missing. This will boost his total stats even more, up to a level that even the most expensive commanders can't keep up. That would easily put his combat advancement on 5 points, however, because of the rest not being awakened yet, we'll put it on 4 points for now. When it comes to city advancement, he gives 20% camp training speed, and training speed is rather hard to get from time to time because there's not many commanders that can boost it. So for that we give it 2 points. When it comes to friendship, he has an overall quality of 9, and that would give him 3 points, also because he uses books which are not that rare. However, those 9 points are 5 in combat rate, which are by far the most sought after skills in game. For that reason we give him 4 points. Seg comes in with a sturdy 20 points. And then we have Kevin, and Kevin is pretty much a bit tankier Chris, so that makes him rather useful in the Weirwood. And for that reason, we kindly want to give him 3 points. And for training grounds, it's pretty much like Seg. His skills make him so tanky, and all these passive skills make sure he doesn't need any external support to stay alive as long as possible. For that reason, we give him 4 points in the training grounds as well. Unfortunately, when it comes to rebel leaders, his damage output is very low, and you don't really need him because you usually use a Marjorie or a Jana frontline. For that reason, we give him 1 point because his damage output is slightly higher than Seg's.
His abilities, however, are completely self-centric, giving him a 0 in the support category. He does, however, have a very interesting crowd control ability. With an area of effect that can take out multiple enemies for a 2-second stun, he gets 2 points for crowd control. Kevin's skills are entirely focused on keeping him alive as long as possible. However, because of the damage reduction, which basically is a complete shield, and the control resilience, which enables him to break out from enemy stuns quicker, we give him 3 points for his skills.
When it comes to combat advancement, he gives total health and total attack, and total health is the better defense skill. For that reason we give him 3 points in combat advancement. He also gives the much needed training speed. For that reason we give him 2 points in city advancement. When it comes to friendship, he gives 10 overall quality, which is rather high, and uses books which are not in high demand. From that he gives 4 command quality, 3 combat rate and 3 leadership, which makes him a very, very good addition to your friendship list. For that he gets 4 points in friendship.
All in all, Kevin of the Night Watch comes in at a very respectable 23 points. And now we have the biggest waste of potential since the Fantastic Four films. Egbert is a bow hero, available from the Westeros Pass, that is very situational, and while his skills look really impressive, he's extremely difficult to work with. We only give him 2 points in the Weirwood because of this, and his skills only get worse when it comes to the training grounds because you can't actually control him, making him go off whenever he feels like it. 1 point there. He's also too difficult to justify in rebel leaders, where his skills don't actually do much at all, giving him 1 point. And with one of the weakest attacks in the game, we have to give him 1 point in damage output as well.
At first glance, Egbert looks a little bit like Marjorie, but Marjorie gives so much more damage reduction and initial defense, while Egbert, before he activates, takes a long time. However, his skills are very aimed towards support. Support, but not the right way. For that reason, we give him 3 points in support. Since he's capable of reducing the target strategy by a fair amount, and for some commanders it will even reduce their strategy entirely, we give him 1 for crowd control. His skills are very, very interesting and have bags of potential, but he simply does not meet the standards for being a very useful commander. For that reason we give him 2 points in his skills. Now when it comes to combat advancement, we will take all the points there and put it in combat advancements. The first one is Fortification Attack, which is by 50%. Fortification Attack will apply when somebody attacks your castle. Your fortifications will do damage to the attacking troops, which we will now put on the combat advancements, giving him 1 point. The bowman attack is 50%, which is higher than any other bowman attack, which will score him another 1 point, and his total defense is 15%. All by all, not the most useful set of skills, but definitely all 3 combat skills, which will score him 3 points. Since we used Fortification Attack for combat advancements, he gets nothing in city advancements.
Egbert unfortunately needs desserts, which is quite difficult to come by, and with only 5 total points in his friendship stats, we only give him 1 point here. All in all, Egbert of Fleabottom comes in at 15 points. And next up we have Arya Stark, the assassin of the infantry class. Start off, we're only going to give her 3 points in Weirwood. The reason behind this is because of her opportunity cost. While extremely useful in some combats, she's not useful everywhere. In some fights, especially against infantry heavy or bow heavy, she falls off because of her lack of general abilities. However, just her pure damage propels her to 5 points in the training grounds. Because of the longer form of combat, it's quite common for her attack to reach over 20,000, and I have seen her wipe an entire enemy army just by herself, so the 5 points are richly deserved. As for fighting with rebel leaders, her damage alone, as well as her versatility in use against spear commanders, gives her 3 points.
Arya's crit is almost 300, which is more than double of any other commanders. This can catapult her damage through the roof, as well as her ramping up attack when enemies are killed. Therefore we give her damage output 5 stars. Since she does reduce the defense of all enemies for the first 5 seconds, we have to give her at least 1 point in support. However, when it comes to crowd control, she does not bring any. Overall, her skills are extremely versatile and extremely useful as well. Her being an assassin like that will give her skills 4 points.
Combat advancement is another area where Arya Stark is quite useful. She has an infantry defense boost of up to 30%, as well as a total attack. The only problem being the total attack is capped at 15%, so it's lower than an overall specialization, but the fact that infantry defense boost is often applied in the front line means we'll give her 3 points here. Unfortunately, her forestry specialization, the third specialization she has, increases wood production by 100%. A large bonus, but overall useless, so 1 point here. Lastly, we have her friendship stats. With an overall quality of 10, command 5 and combat 5, she's extremely useful. The downside of needing weapons to upgrade her is a very big one, but just for the fact that she alone is responsible for 1/5 of my total combat rate means we're giving her 4 points.
And with that, Arya takes the lead with 29 points. I do wonder if there's any commander who can beat this score.
And now we have the golden Lannister boy, but don't worry, he's armless. Due to his lackluster skills, we can only really afford him 1 point in the Weirwood. The same carries over quite simply to the training grounds. While he can be useful due to having the highest base attack of any spear hero, his skills are weak, put it politely, giving him 1 point in the training grounds. There is no rebel cavalry leader formation that you will not want to run him in, however. His extremely high base attack will give you dividends, so we give him 3 points here.
Also, his damage output is really high, especially on single targets, and added the chance to reduce the enemy's defense will give him 3 points on damage output. He does not bring any form of support, however, and when it comes to crowd control, the reducing of the target's defense will give him 1 point. If you have a commander with 1800 base prowess and you give him a skill called Line of Vestalence, which give him 40 extra prowess, you have clearly wasted a skill shot in epic proportions, especially because his passive also adds another 200 prowess, which is 5 times more. I don't know what the developers were thinking on that skill, but for that he gets 1 point in skills.
Thankfully, staying a bit close to the shows and the Jaime we expect, he does do rather well on combat enhancement. Jaime is perfect for a spear front formation, with spear defense increased by 30, health by 30, and total attack increased by 15. For this reason, we give him 4 points here. However, unlike his younger, smarter, and shorter brother, he does not care much for the affairs of the city. only bringing in 0 points in this category. Now, Jamie is a wondrous friend to have, with a total of 12 friendship points, split into 4 leadership, 5 combat rate, and 3 command. He's fringing on a complete 5-star hero. However, his reliance on weapons, which are in extremely high demand, dampens that, giving him only 4 points.
Since he only excels on certain areas, his total score only comes at 18. Of all the commanders out there, there's only one commander who can probably tell you the outcome of the battle before it starts. And Simon has a great hand in that. In the Weirwood, he is absolutely essential, and we'll give him 5 points. And the funny part is, normally you don't bring a healer to the training ground, or a caster or whatsoever, but for Simon it actually works. Mainly because he adds in a crazy amount of defense, as well as heals 2 units for 3 seconds every 8 seconds. Pairing him with other very overpowered champions like Enzo is an incredible winning combination in the training grounds, so we give him 5 points. Now that does not work at all at the rebel leaders, because the fight only takes so much amount of time and you don't really need the heals there, so we give him 1 point in the rebel leaders. And even though Simon makes sure your damage dealer survives, he himself has no damage output whatsoever, so we give him 1 point there. Of course, with 3 skills that are absolutely out there when it comes to support, we'll give him 5 points in support. He only helps his allies, so he doesn't do anything to the enemy, giving him 0 points in crowd control.
The advantage that Simon has on his skills are the fact that the insane abilities he has are split up. You can chain the heal, so you heal in one burst, then a second, then a third. Not to mention that he increases the defense, which can stack. The Eye of Fate ability is half a sentence long. It says add 50% to resistance. That cuts enemy skills such as stuns, such as bleeds, and other effects like that in half, which means that you're basically giving everyone some extra armor. So he gets 5 points here. Unfortunately, his specializations aren't great. On the surface, they seem quite interesting. The total attack increased by 15% over everybody is worth 2 points on his own. However, the siege attack reduction of 50% is absolutely amazing. It's so big until you think about it. That siege reduction only works when you're being attacked, and you're at too big a disadvantage if you're taking hits like that the 50% won't really do much for you. Add to that his other ability of max defense troops means you already need to have 12 million troops out there, so it's extremely limited in its functionality, meaning that he gets 2 for combat and 1 for city.
Simon has an overall quality of 10 in friendship, 4 in aptitude and 4 in finance and 2 in leadership, ideal for a good gold farm. However, he's competing meat with a lot of commanders who have combat rate and stats in better use, so we give him only 2 points in friendship. Simon is the first support hero that really scores high, and definitely worth it as well. 27 points for Simon Blackmyre, the Three-Eyed Raven. This was volume 1. Every 2 days we'll add a new volume. Everything is already recorded. We just need to edit everything together, of course. On your screen now you'll see both the director's cuts, which is basically the audio of us talking to each other, discussing how we're gonna fill in each commander before we actually do the actual recording. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss out on the other volumes, of course. And thank you all very much for watching.